Hey everyone, we are the SGU, of course, and you are our patrons, which we greatly appreciate. So we are here to do another live streaming event, and we thought for this one, just to be a little different, we'll spend the entire hour and a half, or however long this is going to be, doing a complete analysis and deconstruction of the Mueller report. What do you guys think
here we
about
go.
that?
Let's begin.
No?
Nah.
That's not a good idea.
Okay. Maybe not. All right, we'll save that till next time.
Well, first, if you have any questions, of course, get in there and start.
Yeah, start queuing up those questions. While that's happening, while the questions are queuing, just want to remind you that 1 week from yesterday, right, next Friday, the 27th?
Friday, April 26th.
26th?
It's Friday, though.
It's Friday. It's next Friday.
This Friday.
We'll be in Bethlehem.
This Friday.
This Friday.
6 days from now. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, doing the No Show with George Hrab. Should be a lot of fun. There's still tickets available. We'll take them at the door.
Yeah, and you can go to noshow.eventbrite.com.
Mm-hmm. That's KNOW.
Yes.
No Show.
As in know, as knowledge.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, July 11th through 14th, we have Nexus in New York City. We have a great lineup of speakers this year. We have Carl Zimmer.
Yep.
Mary
Mary
Roach. Yep, and the SGU is going to be there. Of course, we're doing a private show. Have we started selling tickets for the private show yet?
No.
We should do that.
We did. We have. Oh, yeah, no, they are part of the Nexus website. Yes.
Great, awesome.
And
they go fast, so if you want...
Yeah, Liz says we're almost sold out. And the extravaganza.
And an extravaganza. And our stage show. So we'll be doing 2 shows plus an extravaganza. That's 3 shows.
That's right.
And then also workshops. I'm doing a workshop with George Hrab that I'm looking forward to called Stump the Skeptic, where people
you cut off a leg?
People who attend the workshop will ask us a question like, explain this skeptic kind of question, like some experience or anecdote or some mystery or something that they think we won't be able to explain or that will be difficult to explain, or just a question that's skeptical. It's not really a science question, it's more like a skeptical question. Like, I heard that this guy's tumor was cured, whatever, and then we'll walk through the thought process of how we would approach that claim. Not that we're going to necessarily have an answer, we won't have enough information for everyone, but it's more about the generating your differential thought, like what are the possibilities here, and how to think your way through the plausibility, and what kind of evidence would sort it out. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm doing a couple of workshops. One of them that I'll be doing with Brian Wecht is we are going to do a best of animation, and talking about how it's culturally significant, And
Is that the one I'm going to be on, or not the other one?
you could be on it if you like. I mean, you
But
usually.
there's one that usually conflicts with my other workshop, and one that doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean best of animated? Like best animated movies of all time type of thing?
Whatever
What do you
pieces
mean?
of animation that we think have had cultural impact,
Yeah.
that to make people aware of it, and just to start fun conversations about them. Because animation is like it's kind of like graphic novels. They're just comic books. Well, what's wrong with comic books anyway? Comic books it's a completely legitimate art form all by itself. So animation always gets kind of a back seat. As an example, like Bob and I love this movie called Fire and Ice. Came out in the 70s, right? Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And it's still an amazing animated movie. It was rotoscoped. It has a little bit of a look of the rotoscoped Lord of the Rings movie that came out in a similar time
But
period.
far better.
Yeah,
Which wasn't very good.
But this movie, Fire and Ice, is fantastic.
Have you ever seen Spirited Away?
Yeah, Spirited Away is amazing. Yeah,
It's an amazing film in any genre.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Whether
yeah,
it's
we just want to focus on them. We've talked a lot about science fiction movies, like best moments in science fiction, and we've had a few of these. So we moved to animation this year, which is cool. We have a lot of other workshops and a lot of other cool things going on that weekend. And we would like to, Liz, we've got to see if Liz is up to the task of maybe organizing another patron event, a poutine extravaganza.
It doesn't have to be poutine. We could
It
move
could
on
be
to some other weird food item.
Meatballs.
We could do a meatball event.
No, it's meat. That's it. I've just decided.
It's
We're doing a
meatballs.
meatball feeding frenzy.
There was that meatball place.
There is a place called Meatballs, I
It
think.
was, within walking distance.
Yeah, all right, so we'll do
That's
that.
right.
I don't know if it was small though, wasn't it? But whatever.
I know.
We'll find the best meatball place within walking distance of Nexus, and we'll do it.
Those are DC, though.
Yeah, but there's
No,
meatball
no, no,
joints
no.
in
I'm talking
Manhattan.
about a different meatball place that was
Yeah.
in New York. Don't confuse me, Ian. So,
And
Ian,
then-
aren't questions supposed to be appearing on that monitor?
Yeah, that
right up
monitor's
there?
not working. So the other thing that we got going on is we are going to Dragon Con, and we will be there for the entire ride, Thursday to Monday.
Yes.
Dragon Con is in Atlanta. If you've never been, man, if you're a fan of science fiction, fantasy, anime, all of that, this is
All
it.
that stuff.
I-
And science and skepticism. There's a science track,
That's
a
right.
skeptical track, and a podcasting track, which I've spoken on all of those tracks. Also, every year for the last few years, and again this year, I'm talking on the post-apocalyptic track.
Yeah.
You guys got to get on that track. Maybe you
Yeah,
could
man.
propose a panel with it.
yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we've got a group costume idea.
We have
don't
several
even.
group
Don't
costume
even. Yeah, we're
ideas,
not.
but-
No, but we are doing
That's
one.
a super secret one, the one that
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah, the big one. It's really going to be complicated, but we're excited about it. Dragon Con. So I've been to a Comic Con.
Well, we all went to Comic Con
Right.
New York.
Yeah, we
last
went to
year.
Comic Con New York. Compared to Dragon Con,
Dragon Con was better.
Steve, Dragon Con blows away the Comic Con we went
Yeah.
to. It blows it away. So if you've been to a Comic Con and you like it, the elements that Dragon Con has in spades is the costuming at Dragon Con is 2 orders of magnitude better than whatever Comic Con tries to do.
That we saw in New York on the
I
day
think
that we went.
the
Yeah.
Comic Con
Depends.
San Diego is probably better, but from what I hear, that's a zoo. It's it's too crowded, it's too big, there's too many people. Dragon Con's probably the one that's in the sweet spot in terms of
Yeah.
there's enough people there with great costumes, but it's not overwhelming.
Well, the cool thing with Dragon Con is that when they get to a certain capacity, they just spill into brand new hotels. Like they'll just, like our hotel that we found last year, they're like fully booked for Dragon Con now. Where last year they were, like it just keeps growing, but they just expand the places that you can go.
One thing that I like about Dragon Con is that it's an all day, all night thing. I mean, it goes through until 1, 2, 3 in the morning or all night. Whereas Comic Con, at least for a lot of Comic Con venues, the city, it shuts down at like 5 or 6 o'clock, and that's it. And then you go out, you go to your hotel or whatever, you leave. There's no nightlife really. That's
Well, yeah, Dragon Con is
integral to the
centralized and it doesn't
conference.
stop. You could stand in one room that's a Dragon Con designated hotel, and it's happening 24 hours a
Yeah.
day. So yeah, Dragon Con is just the bomb. So if you go, definitely come and see, check us out to see what we're doing. But we'd love to meet you in person as well. That's why we like to do these in-person events. Fallen Worm has a question. Have you seen the recent science article discussing high fructose corn syrup correlation in developing colon tumors in mice? It's important to note that much of the work was done in APC-KO mice, making them tumor prone.
Yes, so the answer is no. I have not seen that article. I'll have to take a look at it.
Yes,
But-
the answer is no?
Yes. Yes, I see the question, and the answer is no. So, but the slightly longer answer is I'm not addressing that specific article because I haven't seen it. But I think the question brings up an important point. Whenever you're looking at mice or rats or whatever, the rate at which they form tumors is a lot higher over time. That's why they do them, because they have, they're prone to tumors. So you can actually get data over the 9 or 12 months of the study. And it very rarely translates to humans. It's really just this idea, like, is there anything to be concerned about here? But it doesn't really prove that there's any risk there for humans. So, and it's also, there's so many things that can go wrong with studies like that. So many things. Like, we've seen this with, like, GMO foods. You can do a GMO study that shows, these rats are getting more tumors. Yeah, but those are rats that get more tumors.
Yeah.
It's so... You have to take those kinds of studies with a huge grain of salt and wait for the experts to review them and say, how does this fit into all of the knowledge that we have about this? And just, it doesn't mean that whatever was being studied was bad.
You got to be careful too, because one study, it's like one study is valuable, but not like change the world valuable. It's something that needs to be replicated and refined.
Yeah, but also different, especially with this, like, I would never even trust that, even if that one study were replicated and were solid, it doesn't really tell us that much. Because, like, well, how much corn syrup did they feed these rats, first of all, right? And all of these feeding studies of rats and mice, I just think their applicability is extremely limited.
Yeah. But they might, the thing is, these studies could help in a lot of other ways too. It doesn't directly correlate to people, but they get a lot of different types of information out of the study. So, there might be other reasons why they're doing it. See, this is what bothers me about this headline world that we live in, is that the reporter could just be looking at one little paragraph in, a report that's 10 pages long and drawing some wacky conclusion. I'd have to read it myself. You know the drill, Steve. Let's move on. This is a question that I often want to ask you, and I always forget. So my friend's doctor said she got, this is from Crimson Sardine.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. My friend's doctor said she got kidney stones from minerals in the local tap water. He told her to buy a water filter. This sounds like pseudoscience to me. Should I buy a filter for my tap water, Steve?
So... there's variables here as well. Generally speaking, no. Like, you don't need to worry about this. Now, but local water is very, very variable. It's very different. So it's possible that your local water may have very different properties from, New York City water or just, water in general. And so, yes, some water is harder and some is softer. You know what that word means?
Harder means more minerals.
Yeah, harder. So if you have really, really hard local tap water, you could be getting...
Be gentle.
Ladybug just flew on me.
So
be gentle.
Ladybird.
Be gentle what, for the next generation? I mean, there's about 1,000 of them in this room right now.
And they'll be dead in a day.
Don't kill him.
All right, so I have magnesium in my water, right? So I had my plumber had to come in, and he hooked up this special Hoosie Watzer, takes the main water out of the line, coming in, and it pushes it through this filter, and then I have like this staging tank.
Yeah.
It's not the hot water tank, it's just a water tank. So what it does is it make sure that I always have plenty of water
Mercury, of magnesium,
Yeah, but this
low
thing
water.
pulls it out. And I got to tell you, it's pretty amazing. If you've ever like been around a water filter, I pull this filter out every 3 months. I have to replace it, and it is loaded with orangey yellow goop, like sludge. And like that's before I had the filter in, like every one of my sinks in the bathroom and toilet, everything had a little orange tinge to it. And I was like freaking out one day. I'm like, I'm drinking this. You know what I mean? Like I got to be careful.
Magnesium's not a big deal.
Yeah. And then I realized it's, it can flavor the water a little bit, and it does stain your house. Like you don't want it to happen.
It loosens your stools.
It does loosen your stool?
Yeah, but you'd have to take a lot more than I'm sure you're getting in
Don't
that
sit
water.
on them then. You don't want them to break.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is though, you can, through your tap water, drink a lot of minerals.
Yeah, it totally depends on your local tap water. So you if you're interested, you may want to find out. If you have city water, I wouldn't basically wouldn't worry about it because that's usually pretty well regulated. They fine tune all of the minerals and stuff in there. And also, like companies will try to sell you water filters for your house for thousands of dollars. That's basically a scam. That is pseudoscience. I wouldn't just go for that. So only in, I think, special circumstances. And the other thing about kidney stones, then there's the biological variables. Not everybody is predisposed to kidney stones. Maybe this person has some kind of predisposition to kidney stones if they get too much calcium, which happens to be in their water and whatever. It could have been a very individual decision, but I can't account for what. Now I'm getting like fourth-hand information about what this doctor said. I've learned that even when you go one step away, like when I'm getting second-hand information about what another doctor said, it's never accurate.
Yeah.
Never. whenever I actually go back to that doctor and for whatever reason and are able to corroborate what somebody else said they said, it's never accurate.
Yeah.
Let alone third or fourth hand information. So I can never say I don't account for what other doctors apparently said without me talking with them, allowing them to explain their reasoning. They would say, oh yeah, that she has this disorder and she's got too much whatever in her water, whatever.
I have a side story for you.
Yeah.
So I was in the ER one day. I don't remember exactly why. And you know how in the ER they have the curtains, you're
Yeah.
lying in the bed and there's this whoosh, the curtain thing. So there's a guy on the other side of the curtain and he is in excruciating pain. And I'm scrolling, you're just lying there, I have nothing to do. And I'm cold. You're always like, in the ER because if they undress you for any reason, you're freezing. And this poor guy was in mortal pain.
Mortal.
And I'm thinking, what happened? See, Bob, what did I tell you?
Where is it?
It's right there.
Hi, ladybird.
Ladybugs are one of my favorite. Ladybirds, though, is that the right thing
In
to
the
call
UK,
them?
they call them ladybugs.
All right, ladybugs.
They're not true bugs.
They
But they can call them ladybugs.
why, they
It's
liars? What's happening? So anyway, this poor guy, I don't even want to try to replicate his moaning, how bad it was. He was like, it just
Try.
he was like, like that, like mortal pain. And I am freaking out. So then I hear him kind of go,
Morphine.
And no, it subsided. Nurse comes in and he's like pleading with her. He's like, I never thought, my God, it's a kidney stone and like, I can't believe how much pain I'm in. And the nurse is like, yeah, I'm sorry. She's like, these are one of the most painful things that people experience. And they're like,
that's true.
That's how bad passing a kidney stone is. And I'm over there like, I don't even belong in that. Like that poor guy should be in here. I should just stand up and get out of here.
All right, so the main question now is, how do I minimize my chances of ever going through that shit?
Just keep well hydrated.
Hydrated. Gotcha.
Yep. And coffee is not being hydrated.
I'm screwed. Sure it is.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Sure it is.
You're hydrated. It's
Coffee
mostly
is
water.
99.99% water.
There is logic behind what I say, young Jedi. I say that because your only intake of fluid should not be coffee, right?
Why?
What? Because there's a lot of chemicals in coffee
So
too. You don't want
what?
to overdo it and drink way too much coffee.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have to drink a lot of coffee to get all your.
He drinks a lot of coffee.
Yeah, but it's.
I love coffee too, Bob.
Again, it's
my
mostly
comfort
water. It's mostly the idea that you can't hydrate with something that has other stuff in it is just not true.
All right, well,
Actually, you get 20% of your hydration from food.
Like what? Bananas?
With everything you eat,
Anything.
Watermelon?
Bread.
watermelon would be more.
Bread?
Yes.
Food has water.
What,
in it.
Food has water.
What about dry rice?
Do you eat dry
I didn't
rice?
think so.
Do you
No,
eat
I
dry
didn't think
rice?
so. See? He thinks he knows everything. Okay, Crispin, Kinship Courier. Do you have any recommendations for your go-to news resources that have a reputation for skepticism and critical thinking?
You mean general news or science news?
I would probably think both. I mean, science news, yeah. I mean, because I do our Facebook page, I've accrued quite a number of sites that I trust. I mean,
Most science news sites are just republishing press releases, or they might be rewriting them.
Yep.
It's actually frustrating because I'm doing research for a news item, and so I line up 4 or 5 news items.
They're all the same.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, let's get some original takes on this.
Well, they're like, all right, so fizz.org.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
But that's just an aggregator.
But still, I feel like, but they have more of the
So let's talk about science news for a second.
Okay, here we
so
go.
there is no trusted source for science
can't trust-
news.
no, there is
It's
no
true. So what you have to, I basically use I find I have to use some kind of aggregator where I could just screen for lots of different science news items,
Yep.
right? So how do I get as many different science news items in front of my face as possible? And then once I find that's an interesting item, that's an
Right.
interesting topic, then I have to go 2 or 3 levels deeper to find. Hopefully, I could find the original article.
Yes, that's key. That's key.
But that only really helps if it's in a field that I could read. There
So
are some
the
fields-
shorthand is though, you can't say, oh, this site can be trusted.
No.
It's how about can you trust one journalist? Is there's
No.
as an example, Christopher Hitchens had me. I never double checked anything that guy said.
Yeah, but I didn't believe everything he said either. And he said, well, he was a commentator, so that's different. But there's no one person that always gets it right, and there's no one person that has equal knowledge in every field. So I always will try to find 2 things at least, as close as I could get to the original article, and be able to read it and understand it
And
without
often-
it getting too technical.
Right.
And an expert that I trust in that field
Right.
who can do an
Yeah,
analysis.
but nobody
Right.
has that. You know, like we're lucky
Yeah,
because
there's
we know.
blogs. There's, you know, whatever. You know, so I usually have like 20 different blogs by scientists in different fields. Like, you know, if it's astronomy, I'll want to know what Phil Plait has to say about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Just, you know, for example.
But don't let the original study intimidate you too much. Sure, they can get technical as hell. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
reading.
I always read the original study, but sometimes you get
astrophysics,
lost in the
and they're
weeds.
nasty. But if you go to the abstract, the intro,
It's the
and
first
then,
paragraph
and then the
you need to read.
conclusion,
The
you can
discussion,
get an
yeah.
idea. And there's you know, if you see a lot of symbols that you don't understand, just scroll past that stuff, and you'll find stuff that that isn't too dense. You get you get a sense.
A lot of the time.
Especially
But
for a key topic, a key
Yeah.
point of it, you can just do a search for that key word and you'll see what they're really saying.
So the
about it.
summary answer is, I mean, because everyone wants to like, you know, I feel like people are always asking us, can you send me links and stuff? But it's more about
process.
It's the process than it is
Process.
the URL. And the basic process is you gotta follow the article back to its source. You gotta consider who's
Yeah.
writing it. You know, and even still, like you can read studies that are bullshit too.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's
that's
the
why
problem.
That's why sometimes I'll read a study. I perfectly understand the study. I'm just not sure if I buy it. And then I try to read what experts are saying about it. So some journals, like some online journals, they'll have comments, you know, in the actual primary journal itself,
Right.
And that's where like other scientists go in there and they'll like analyze the study in the comments, you know, on the website where the journal is published.
Yeah, read comments. I find are usually, especially on science-based items like that. Like, you can
Well,
get
this is
some-
not like open to the public. These are other scientists.
Yeah.
But you know, I have actually institutional access to science journals. So this only really work for open access journals, unless you also have some kind of access to the pay-per journals.
But
Which
I
is
find
a
like on
huge
your
pain in the
blog and
ass.
on science, like neurological
Yeah.
and science-based medicine, like the comments are amazingly beneficial.
Well, we cultivate
Yeah.
readers, regular readers, and commenters who know what they're talking about. A lot of them are professionals. I'm not done, Ian.
What? You keep talking.
So the other thing
I'm going to get something I
All
want
right.
to show
The
everyone.
more controversial the topic, the more different opinions I need to read before I feel like I have a handle on it as well. So sometimes, it's like it's more that I've developed a sense like when I know I have a good source. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, this guy that I'm reading right now, they know what they're talking about. Their opinions are thoughtful, are nuanced, are thorough, and he has the appropriate level of expertise, and I'm not detecting an agenda. You know what I
Are you
mean?
done?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay. All right. So I made this. I have to show it off. So this is an original Burke model 115. Probably made in the 50s or 60s. There's a lot of these chairs out there. These are the chairs, the exact chair that they used on Star Trek, the original series. Now, of course, they added this piece and they added this piece, right? So I had to, took me years to find ones that were in good shape, that we could afford, that I can work out a shipping arrangement with the people, because nobody wants to ship big, bulky stuff like this. I was able to make it all happen. I had to sand it down, spray paint it, but this is as close as you're going to get to that chair.
Show in the back.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful chair. These three things on the back I had to purchase separately and sand them and glue them on, and then be very careful about spray painting them. But this,
And they're centered very nicely, Jay.
yeah, they are. It took me and Bob. There's a lot of weird math that we had to do because these pieces perfectly fit the back. Like whoever designed them, like carved it so they fit the exact part. So you know where to put them just by how they kind of almost click in when you're in the right thing. But going this way is very difficult. So Bob and I had to do some weird stuff with strings and plastic and tape to kind of get the center line. A lot of fun. We got two of them back here. So that's it. I just wanted to show off some of some of the work that I love doing. I love this studio. Can they hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
All right, next question from Xana Horick. Right?
Hey, that's personal.
Was it in a Oreo?
It's kind of cut off at the end. I don't know if it's a C or an O at the end.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a white bar cutting
It
off.
is an O.
Is it an O? Xana Horio?
Many times you've commented about how bad science reporting can be. Have you ever considered contacting the offenders with a list of guidelines to help them avoid making similar mistakes in the future?
Well, we deal with offenders differently.
Yeah.
We publicly shame them.
Yeah, we don't contact them like because
I've contacted reporters, but I usually don't like. That's kind of presumptuous, first of all, and most of them, if their science reporting is that bad, they don't care.
Yeah.
I made my deadline.
Yeah, they're not going to be lectured by me.
I wrote my essay.
But if you publicly shame them, and what I mean by that is I report on the same study and say, and look at how horrible this reporting was.
Yeah.
But here's what's actually going on. And that gets a lot of reaction. I've gotten contacted by a lot of reporters or TV shows or whatever following up because they realize, or somebody, their editor or somebody at whatever up the chain realizes, okay, well, we got this story horribly wrong, and now we're being made fun of. So now we could do a round 2 where we correct the bad story. But here's what they do, and this is like every single time. This is what happens. They do the sensationalistic reporting round 1. Then scientists, me and other people correct them. Then they do the follow-up reporting where they say, look at how bad the reporting was, this is the real story, completely ignoring the fact that they were the ones who did the bad reporting. So they just get another round of reporting out of it where they're the good guys.
Yeah, so essentially they have marketing as the number 1 thing.
Yeah,
and
the number 2 thing.
And yeah. Let's continue to Nicholas rocket ship. That's cool, I love that rocket ship. Look at that, Bob. Question, have you looked into the claims that GMO corn causes issues with bee colonies? What about the A colonies? I was speaking with an organic bee farmer the other day, and she was quite convinced there is evidence showing pesticides that GMO corn creates in itself harms bees.
No, that's not true. So the whole colony collapse thing and the bee thing is very complicated. There's no one smoking gun cause. There's multiple things that are happening. Now, there are studies which show that some pesticides do have a negative effect on bee colonies. It's mostly the nicotinamides, though, in terms of the evidence.
So why those in particular? What do they do? Is it something neurological or?
I don't know mechanistically exactly why they're more susceptible to that type of insecticides. But that's not GMO corn. GMO corn has the BT inherent insecticide, which is, by the way, an organic pesticide. It's used in organic farming. And that I've not seen any evidence to suggest that causes any problems with the bees. So yes, I think the bees are under a lot of pressure, a lot of ecological pressure. A lot of it is from.
Oh, I thought you meant like hurry up and make more honey.
Like foreign viruses, other things, other things that can invade the colony, and and also pesticides and other chemicals in the environment. But GMOs are not it; they're not to blame.
All right, what about this guy?
Micronix.
Said,
or is it Micronix?
Probably Micronix.
Or Micronix.
Or Micronix. Anyway, I feel my skeptical senses tingling when Jordan Peterson talks about lopses, serotonin, and hierarchies. Is he correct, wrong, or more complicated?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, you guys familiar with him at all?
Yeah.
He's a very controversial figure, and it's like almost impossible for us to do any kind of drive-by or quick discussion of him without, getting into a lot of trouble, just because it's way too complicated a figure to do any kind of quickie thing. But let me just tell you, without doing a deep dive, because we're not really prepared to do that off the cuff, that he gets into a lot of evolutionary psychology. Where he says people behave this way because, of hormones or evolution or whatever. And biologists think he's full of shit, is the bottom line. I haven't read a biologist, like an evolutionary biologist, somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, who takes this guy seriously when it comes to evolutionary psychology. That's my short answer. I'm not going to get into all of his libertarian stuff or all the politics. This isn't a political show, and I'm not dismissing him entirely. But just when it comes to the evolutionary psych part, I've heard a lot of claims that he's made that sound like nonsense, and I've read a lot of biologists who don't like anything that the guy has to say. But the politics are aside.
Next question.
All right, this is from Bill. I heard a new conspiracy theory the other day regarding 9/11. The woman I was talking with claimed there's still a missing plane from 9/11. Has anyone heard this before?
No.
No. I mean, that would be huge news.
A missing plane?
A missing, I mean,
a secret missing plane.
A secret missing plane.
Yeah, I mean, all the planes are accounted for. They know.
However, a conspiracy I did hear, and I don't know if this is the missing plane, there are some people who think that a plane didn't hit the Pentagon, a missile hit the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then therefore, where's the plane?
Right.
And they say, well, that's the missing plane.
Gotcha.
And what they did was they directed the plane to a secret airport where they killed all the passengers.
Yeah. No, the answer is bullshit.
Yeah, it's all nonsense.
We
it's
know
just made
people,
up. There's no evidence for that at
Hal
all.
Bidlack was in the Pentagon when the plane hit, and he he was telling us about what it was like,
Yeah.
and then they went out. Those people in the Pentagon saw plane debris like
Yeah.
they were there. So that's
but
bullshit.
don't forget, we've all seen the cartoons with Wile E. Coyote. When a plane goes through a building, there's going to be a wing
plane-shaped outline in the building.
and it
Yeah.
wasn't there, so something had to be wrong.
Exactly, Bob. Lemon curry, very delicious. You ever have it?
Oh yeah.
All right, that's the user's screen name. I'm not sure if you have covered this in the podcast yet, so if so, apologies. But how overhyped do you think the microbiome is? Linking gut microbiota to digestive disorders makes sense to me, but is there good evidence for seemingly unrelated diseases?
So that's a really good question. It's actually a very complicated question, which I'll try to give you a quick summary of. So the microbiome is basically we all have about 100 different species of bacteria living in a self-sustaining, balanced ecosystem.
I have 102.
You have 102?
Yep.
I'm proud of you. That's good for you.
In our digestive system.
In our digestive system, and we've talked about different aspects of this on the show before. The fact that recent studies found that people basically break down into 4 different microbiome types, which is interesting. But there's a lot of other nuances. But there's some kind of stable ecosystem. Now you pretty much get it from your family. You get
Could you
colonized.
swap it out? Could they
You could, but it's not easy. That's where you have to do like fecal transplants. You can't do
poop pills.
You got to do the poop pills. You got to do here's a whole ecosystem of microbiota to replenish.
So how do you
yours.
kill the one that's in there and replace it with the other ones?
Well, antibiotics. You could take broad spectrum antibiotics, really wipe things out, and then give yourself.
You couldn't just eat the poop pills and let them have like a battle royale.
So the whole point about one of the points is that it keeps other bacteria out.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
answering your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It keeps it-
So you can't just layer something on top. That's why taking probiotics, it's 1 or 2 or 3 species. And, Mark Crislip said it's like planting rows of corn in the rainforest. You're not going to affect the ecosystem of the rainforest by doing that.
Good analogy.
Yeah,
right
and
there.
the whole, again, part of its point is to keep out other bacteria. So it's already taking up all the space.
Right.
Yeah.
The niches are filled.
Or filled by design. All right, so, but these bacteria can be active in terms of what they secrete and what they eat, and maybe they're sending signals to they're having either pro or anti-inflammatory products, or they're affecting even the nervous system in the GI system. So,
And they help you digest certain foods. I mean, it's an amazing
we
asset.
couldn't live without them.
Right, things would be very different if we didn't have them.
So I had a
Just to
stomach
be
flu.
dead.
Remember, not too long ago, last month I had the stomach flu, and I read that your biome can take a hit, and without getting into the gory details, yes, that is true. And I was effed up for the 2 weeks after the symptoms went away. I was all screwed up from it. I'm reading about it. It takes a while for that biome to kind of get back up into shape.
But imagine genetically tweaking your microbiome.
Yeah, that'd be
to
cool.
do stuff that we can't even dream about today.
To make you jump higher.
Well, so here's the question. Can you treat your rheumatoid arthritis by altering your microbiome? That's the big question.
Yeah.
So the short answer is this is an area of active research. There's plausibility here. In fact, there are people in my department at Yale researching the microbiome and multiple sclerosis. And
So Steve, if you could get something from your microbiome, like one power, what would it be?
what power would I want?
Sense
Just from
hunger?
the microbiome, sense hunger. Let's see.
First, give me something that you think they could do if we genetically engineer.
Actually, realistically?
Yeah, and then tell me a fantasy one.
A realistic one would be just a super immune system, I guess would be good.
Yeah,
That'd be
okay,
good.
That'd be
Or
awesome.
the ability to digest paper.
Yeah.
You get really
I was
hungry.
going to say that,
there's no
you could
food
eat
around.
anything,
Yeah. Or how about just to detoxify anything you eat? You can't ever get poisoned.
Yep. Like Rasputin probably had a super biome from that.
So, but let me
Fantasy?
finish. Let me finish.
Right, go ahead.
So there are researchers at my department who are researching whether or not adjusting the microbiome can be used to treat multiple sclerosis. And what one of them said to me was, "Turns out it's a lot harder than we thought."
Yeah.
And that's basically
think?
that's the answer to the entire area of microbiome research. It's turns out it's a lot harder than we thought.
That's why we need AI to help us out a bit.
But I just mean that it's just so we found a lot of correlations, people with these bacteria are more likely to have these diseases or whatever, but we don't know how to go from the correlations to an intervention that will actually influence disease. And we certainly can't do it with probiotics. So we're in the infant stages, and you hear that a lot, but we're these early stages of the microbiome research in terms of a medical biological intervention.
Oh no, we're just
maybe like talk to me in 50 years.
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
That if I had to assign a rough timeline before we have like we're tweaking your microbiome to treat illness. That's what I mean. Other than like irritable bowel syndrome, that's going to be the low-hanging fruit, like the actual GI system itself. But other like trying to treat your multiple sclerosis by affecting your bacteria in your gut. Yeah, 40, 50 years is probably, which means we have no idea, but if it's going to work out, that's the horizon.
If you're going to go forward 50
Yeah.
years, like you would think other technologies might make altering the microbiome ridiculous.
Well,
at
I
that
don't think
point.
so. I don't think so. I mean, bacteria are machines. They are, and I don't know that nothing's going to replace the need to have bacteria completely carpeting our GI system and all of our mucous membranes, and they do have an influence on our biology, no question. There's a lot of links to obesity. I mean, that's another one. But again, we don't know what the cause and effect is there. But
I think I hear you. Yeah, I mean, there are people that legit probably have something biological going on that's making them obese. But of course,
there's other things as well, which is hard to factor out. Like, why do we have twice as much obesity as we did 50 years ago? I don't think our microbiomes are shifting. I think it's because of our eating habits. But it's complicated. So that's one of those things where it's like, it's like stem cell therapy. It's early science. The potential is interesting. Technology's not quite there yet. So a lot of pseudoscience is filling in the gray zone until the research actually gets done.
It'd be fun science fiction for someone to write a story about the microbiome actually is the intelligence in the body. Mm-hmm. Like they take over somehow or whatever. Kind of cool. I love this next question. How large of an this is from Not the Steve.
Not the Steve.
Not the Steve.
Yeah.
The plan.
Yeah. How large of an epidemic would you expect it would take to convince anti-vaxxers? So before you come in with the expert angle here, I would think pretty damn large. I would think that you'd get a percentage of people, like especially if it hit home, that they might change their mind. But I think that these people could be so dug in that they could even if it got to an epidemic level, like really serious, that they still would be holding on.
You want to answer it?
Well,
I'll give you the correct answer.
We're seeing the biggest outbreak in a generation. And I'm not hearing anything from them to make me think that this is just persuading them in the slightest.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing deep dives on it, but I think it would take a
It's
big
still
one.
minuscule.
The thing is, but we don't have to worry about impacting them. We need to worry about and think about impacting lawmakers and people that could actually create laws to deal with this.
Address the question, though. I mean, it's an interesting, legit
We're
question.
already at the point where we're affecting lawmakers.
Yep.
So I think
Which
that
is good.
the question's a false dichotomy, and because it's treating anti-vaxxers in a monolithic way, as if they're all going to make one decision. I think the bigger the epidemic, the more it will eat into the anti-vaccine movement. And first you'll pick off the hesitant people, and then maybe some casual anti-vaxxers, or people who are curious. But there's going to be a hard core of anti-vaxxers for whom no epidemic is big enough to convince them. They'll just think that the vaccines are causing the epidemic. There are people who are immune to evidence.
And that would be
absolutely. But the question is how big is the real question is how big
20%?
is that core, and how many anti-vaxxers may be convinced if if people were dropping dead like flies.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to answer that question.
Right. I mean, what would it take to completely marginalize them? But you're right.
But the current measles outbreak is not enough to make a dent.
No.
We could say that.
Next question is, how are the plans coming for a follow-up book? And that's from Sam D.
So we have several books in the works. But fortunately or unfortunately, I just got tapped to do an audio course for the teaching company. I've done 2 video courses for them. This is going to be audio only. It's going to be a lot quicker than doing the video. So I basically have to bang that out before I could resume work on the books. So that's going to delay it till September, unfortunately. But these guys could start working while I'm working. But I would say it's probably going to be a year before we're done with a book. But I'll have a course coming out probably this fall.
Right. Yeah. And best case scenario, we could, in a year and a half, have 2 books.
Yeah, if we really
do a bam,
yeah.
do a double release.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And if you have any ideas for a book you want us to do, because we're working, basically in the background on our next book ideas, but let us know. We're always obviously happy to field ideas.
So I'm not surprised that this next question comes from this particular person.
Silac.
This is Silac. This is our poutine buddy. Silac says, how does the LARP preparation for next week, or how's the preparation going for the LARP?
So we wrote the whole thing
Yes.
in terms of the idea, the setting,
picture, yeah.
what's going to happen. Now we're writing the details. My plan was to do that today, but those plans have been largely sidelined by the fact that out of fucking nowhere, we have City of Heroes back. And I just can't keep myself from playing that game, at least for a little bit.
Yeah. So
I promise you that won't impact the quality of the LARP next Friday. It just means I'm going to have to cram that work into the rest of the week.
It is the freaking weekend. We get to take, this is the funny thing. This is why.
I know, but my weekend was mapped out to work, but it's like, holy, then the universe dangled, a return of City of Heroes out of nowhere in front of me.
Let me give them some context. But to answer your
sit
question
back and
from my
relax.
perspective, the LARP prep is going great. We have a fun, really cool idea that we think is very intriguing. Now it's all the heavy lifting now. It's like, let's create all the characters, let's go, I had sound effects and blah. But anyway, City of Heroes is a game that we were playing before the SGU was created. It was our Wednesday night slot. What night of the week were we?
It was Wednesday night.
It was Wednesday night. So
we replaced it with the podcast.
So we played City of Heroes every Wednesday night. We all played it more than just the Wednesday night as well. But that was our religious, it was me, Bob, Steve, and Evan. We had other people join in as well, like our friend Doug was there, and a handful of other people would come and go.
Yeah, we would finish a Wednesday night and be like, all right, guys, by next week, you need to level up to this level.
We would synchronize our level because
do this
it would
mission.
Make it easier.
Right.
So the game started, I believe, in 2006. In 2012, the game was shut down by NCSoft. And then, God, do I go into the whole thing? Maybe
Just
not.
give them the quickie.
The quickie thing
quickie
is, the super quickie version is that when the whole thing was being shut down, a developer sent one of the people that was in the City of Heroes community, because when a game gets very popular, there's communities arise. He sent them all of the code, not the executables, the code. And
it was an older code, but it checked out.
Yeah. So I think it was. You know how they would chapter the game, so when they do an update, it would be like chapter. So they gave him chapter 24, I think. I could be wrong on that. But the guy gets the code, and instead of doing what everyone would think he would do, which would be to distribute it to the world of the game, game players, so everyone can continue playing the game that they love, slyly do it.
Yeah.
He kept it, and he started a private server that people were paying to be on, and it was not cool.
Although they say they were trying to avoid being cease and desisted by NCSoft.
Right.
Which is legitimate, which you have to say is legitimate. We don't really know.
We don't know what the ultimate truth is. But I do want to say, though, that the guy that did it, I'm happy that he finally released the code. Now, there's a lot of backstory here. I'd be happy to tell everyone the whole thing. You could go on the internet and get the whole story. But it ends up the guy does turn over all the code, and 2 days later,
the community jumped on it.
50 to 60 developers.
But and I actually played for 10 minutes this morning.
2 days
Just
later,
10 minutes I was doing the show.
We're downloading it, installing it, and playing it. Now they're testing. There's a test server now. Everyone is being super cool. The entire community is super happy. And this has never happened to me before. I have never been like a diehard fan of a video game. This game captured my interest in such a profound way. It's a shared experience with all of us too. I mean, when I think about it, I can't help but think of you guys.
Yeah. And Perry, we played that game endlessly with Perry.
Perry was one of the funniest things the funniest thing that ever happened that has to do with video games happened in this game with us. But we had more fun because this is. Let me tell them why they don't forget your thought. But this I will forget and you won't. This is really important though. City of Heroes was one of the reasons why the SGU was created, because we were having these awesome conversations with each other during this time where we're playing a game, but we're not talking the game. We're talking we're having our friendship dialogues. We're talking about science, politics, basically no sports because only Evan out of all of us is really into sports. Oh, Perry and Evan were really into it, but we didn't really get into that. But we were like arguing about all sorts of pop news and culture and all this shit. And then one of our friends, Shane, who happened to be playing with us, said, hey, guys, on an email chain, he's like, hey, let's start a podcast.
Where we have this conversation on a podcast.
But he wanted to do it more politically oriented. And Steve said, and a lot of people must have heard this, but Steve said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do a skeptically based podcast, and you're not invited.
Thanks for the idea, though.
But
I didn't say the last part, but it was implied.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you're right. You didn't come out, but it is implied. So the bottom line, though, is that because of City of Heroes, it was the thing that pitched the ball up in the air, and I don't think we would have been here if it weren't for City of Heroes. If you are a player or interested, there is a possibility that if things go the right way, that we might start a City of Heroes based server for SGU patrons.
Yes, that's our plan. If we
can pull it off.
Yeah, if we can pull it off. So right now they're still just trying to stand up the game. I mean, it's working, but like right before this show, we tried to get on the server and it was down because there's a test server. They're trying to get it to work. But I'm assuming like in a month or so, it's going to be pretty tweaked because again. The fact that they got it going in 2 days is amazing. There's a lot of dedicated programmers working on this.
50 to 60 developers. That's huge. How are they coordinating and working together?
It's all open source at this point.
Yeah, but they're doing it on someone. They have to have a project manager. They have to have software that's allowing them to share the code base. There's people that are driving the effort, but then they just have all
easy to do.
But the typical thing, and you know this, Bob, is someone is generating a list of bugs.
Yeah.
And they're just assigning, you fix this, you fix that. Now, the other thing that is fascinating to me is that this other group of people called SEGs, and SEG stands for, the letters stand for something. I forget what it means. What they're doing is they're reverse engineering the entire game, where they're actually rewriting the game in C++. So this game was not written in C++. They're just recreating the game to be an identical version of it, but on a much healthier language. And optimized for the latest and greatest shit. Like one of the things we found out was this game can't handle modern processors well. Like it's not
doesn't take advantage of them.
Yeah, it doesn't take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's an old game. It's a 10-year-old game, but
we are super psyched about
if we
this.
could do that, it'd be fun, because we'll play. Then you could play with us, those who want to, on a server that we host.
But then we could.
We don't know.
We used to fantasize about this. We can go back 5 years where we were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could do X, Y, and Z with City Heroes? So one of our ideas is that people can submit missions. Like you could actually write a mission in a game because there's tools for that in the game where we could be like making anti-vaxxers the bad guys. Oh God, that could be so much fun.
Right. All right. Let's go on. Bill, what do you say, Bill?
Hey, Bill.
Question: have the guys heard about the fossils found in the drawer in Kenya that were what looks like a new polar bear-sized carnivore? I have not heard about this.
Nope.
It must be just that. We'll have to look at it. Maybe we'll talk about it on Monday or this week. But I wonder when it's from, because before, what I can say is that, what was it, like from 30 to 100 1,000 years ago, there was an age of gigantism. You guys are aware of that?
Absolutely.
Basically, all the carnivores and the herbivores in the world were huge.
Now, what was that? Does oxygen have anything to do with that?
No, I think it was just an evolutionary arms race. Your herbivores get bigger so that the predators are too small for them. So the predators have to get bigger. So the herbivores get bigger, and just whatever. There was just a spasm of that happening. Everything was huge, for a while.
But then something really small could be undetectable and
whatever, something happened,
right? Like a
that
little,
was the
like
megafauna,
like a mouse that had a human head on it. Like that was running around.
Right. I wonder if this is from that era. That's all. But we'll look it up.
Here's a fun question. Chatel. If I'm correct, this patron is a double patron. This patron is contributing to both SGU and AQ6. And if I'm correct, thank you so much. I try I try to visually get familiar with everyone. Okay, so if you had 1 year of unlimited funds, which 3 things would you do to promote science and skepticism? So
what do you mean by unlimited funds? I mean, like the ability just to work on skepticism for a year, or like the ability?
No, I think
$100 million.
Yeah, I think it's more of the $100 million thing. Let's just go under that premise because that's what I think he's going for. All right, so my thing. Let's go right down. We'll
one each.
One each. Mine is we would have people going into Congress and the Senate and. I'm forgetting the word. Lobbyists. We want dedicated lobbyists that are orchestrated, that can educate.
But also funding skeptical candidates. You could do that too.
Exactly. Okay, go ahead. What's yours?
That's pretty good. I mean, there's so many projects that you could work. Like you could, for example, create a open source science curriculum K through 12.
Yes.
Just anyone, and make it super high quality. And obviously be totally, incorporating critical thinking every step of the way with all the resources.
And then just say, if you want it, it's free.
There it is, it's free. Yeah,
textbooks
put the textbook
and everything
industry out of business. Yep. Absolutely.
Bob.
Steve just stole mine.
Okay.
I would
more
use
robots.
I would use my unlimited funds to create an AI to make so many scientific advances that everyone loves science more.
And loves you more. It would be called AI Bob.
But I like the idea. I love Steve's idea or the idea that I was going to say, and so Steve stole it. The online curriculum. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
K to 12 science courses. Created by the science communicators throughout the world and tweaked with up to date. Because you get a textbook. When you get a textbook, it's out of date.
Yeah, it's got to be online. But you got to have those supplemental materials like workbooks and stuff that.
Right.
You can't have the students being able to get all the answers online. You have to have this stuff that the teachers are pushing.
That would be huge. That would be just.
Yeah, and those things are out there, but I mean, I think I would do it right.
Yeah.
To name a few, right? There's a lot of
What else? Wait,
other
unlimited
things.
funds. Unlimited funds.
I mean, you want
make a movie. Start a studio.
Well, if you start, the idea of that is you make the heroes be critical thinkers, right? So you could take any movie that you really like.
Or just create. I would do a Cosmos-esque PBS, TV series, but about critical thinking.
But look at it this way: there are people that appeared on TV, like Bill Nye, or Spock is a great example, right? That got people interested into science, right? Like there are people that their careers became their careers because they watched Bill Nye, the science guy, and were like thought Spock was cool, and got into science just because of that. So that's why before I was saying take any movie that you love, pick a character. Let's say Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, but there's 10 more lines in the movie that shows that he's science minded. That gives him a science background, right? And you'd be shocked at how little it would take to tweak the character, right?
Yeah.
To make an impression, yeah.
So, it would be cool to make a blockbuster movie that people really liked where you're just kind of directing, or I don't know how you would
It's hard
influence.
to do that.
I'm sure it is. That'd be crazy expensive because these movies are, hundred.
Any of you guys reading the Expanse book series? I'm just watching the TV show.
Colonel Bat Guano, great name. No, I haven't read.
If that is your real name.
I haven't read any of the Expanse books. I'm even still behind in season 3.
On the TV show?
Yeah.
Is season 4 coming out?
I think so.
I don't know.
All right. Have you heard about this FDA-approved Zap Away Your ADHD device? How is that supposed to work?
From Pab Now?
Why might it only be for children between 7 and 12?
I don't think, other than warts, you can zap anything away.
So I think it's probably a fraudulent device. So here's the thing. I will tell you this: that the FDA has different rules for approving devices as it does drugs. For a drug, you have to prove efficacy. For devices, you just have to prove that the device is not inherently going to kill you, right? It doesn't. They don't necessarily approve devices because they work. It's just that they just want to make sure that they're inherently safe. And so it might. And I bet you it's. I guess the other thing is it's not approved is actually the wrong term. Oftentimes, the FDA, it's a different term. It's an FDA cleared device or whatever. But people use the word approved incorrectly in that context. I bet you anything it's not approved for ADHD. Yeah, you're always approved for an indication. I would bet you that that's not the case. That they just said, okay,
this device
is safe.
won't kill you.
Right. But what zapping away your ADHD is inherently an implausible claim. I would be highly skeptical about that.
So
are we coming to the end?
Yeah,
How long has it been?
An hour. We're doing good.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I want.
It always goes by quickly.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the cool thing is our patrons ask very provocative questions.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. So again, Nexus is the really big thing that we have coming up. We are very available at Nexus as well. So of course, if you're a patron, we really definitely want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Don't come to Nexus if you're a patron and not come up to us.
Oh my God!
Come on, now, one thing I also got to tell our patrons. This is one way. It's T-shirts are supposed to be made. I mentioned this at one point. I've had a lack of quality artwork. I don't want to say that any of the designs I saw were bad, just not what I have in my mind's eye.
Nothing got over the borderline yet?
Yeah, I'm really looking, Ian and I have been looking for someone that can do the kind of illustration that I want. If you happen to know a really good illustrator, or you are a really good illustrator, send me an email, send it to give me, SGU T-shirts as a subject, so I'll make sure I see the email.
Jay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When's the website going up?
Hey, Ian. Hi.
ASAP.
Ian says ASAP.
ASAP.
We should, we need a magic 8-ball that is Ian's answers.
You shake it.
Ian says ASAP.
The future looks cloudy. Oh, damn.
Go fuck yourself, Steve. What the hell?
Who put that in there?
So, guys, thank you for being patrons. This is, to me, it's very personal because I'm working full time for the company, and it means, an epic, profound thing to me. It's as close to spiritual as I get. I get to do this.
We want to do more of this.
Yes,
the
we
more
do.
The more support we get, the more we could do. Speaking of which, if you haven't seen our Alpha Quadrant 6 videos, then go over to Alpha Quadrant, and it's the number 6, alphaquadrant6.com. We have a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, and a website, and a separate Patreon page for that. And we've been doing science fiction reviews. We're pretty much up to weekly. So while we started as a Star Trek Discovery after show, but in between the Star Trek Discovery seasons, we just reviewed the final episode of the second season.
Mm-hmm.
In between, we do reviews of other stuff. We're reviewing movies, TV shows. We reviewed The Expanse.
Top 10 list.
We do top 10 lists. We do just like what makes a classic science fiction horror movie, or what science fiction universe would you want to live in and why. There's all kind of crazy stuff, and we take obviously suggestions from our audience.
That episode you just said is coming out probably next week.
Yeah, so we have a few in the can because we were doubling up. We did like 2 episodes a week, and then the ones that weren't super timely we just kept in the can. So we have like a few weeks ready to go, and then we'll be recording more. The goal is to have one a week, but then that's more resources, it's more time, it's more work. It's one of the things we're able to do because Jay's working for the show full time. We really couldn't do a weekly video without having a full time.
I got to do all the post production.
Yeah, Jay does all the post production. There's also prep and stuff for it,
yeah.
But. And we have plans for expanding. There's so much stuff, so much content that we could do. It really is we're just resource limited. That's where you guys go.
But the cool thing is, I'd like to tell the SGU patrons, because we did. I think we told our Alpha Quadrant 6 people. So we have something really awesome coming up, guys. A designer, a creator, builder at Weta, David Tremont. This guy is so awesome. So he builds models and props, and he does. Weta is the company that did Lord of the Rings and District 9,
high-end
other things.
Science fiction.
Just they're amazing.
Yeah,
and they're
maker, a special effects company. Yeah,
they make, this company makes props like nobody else though. So he is a big listener of the show, and he came to us and he said, I want to help you guys build a Star Trek the Original Series phaser rifle that is a new design, but fits.
Design it new, but it fits within that genre.
It fits within the genre. So because the one I like the original one, Steve doesn't like it.
I don't like it.
Bob and I like it, but we wanted to build one that has a cooler look to it. That maybe is a little bit more modern, but still has a minor retro vibe to it. So bottom line is, he's doing this to help us promote the AQ6. I'm sorry, to help promote the SGU's 4,000 patron 12-hour live streaming thing that we're going to do, and we're hoping to do in the Star Trek Museum.
So we've already had our initial meetings. We already have preliminary designs for this phaser rifle.
It looks good.
It's shaping up pretty quickly.
But the important thing is
he's going to make an extra one for us to give away to a patron.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
So we're going to figure out what that means. Like, what is the patron?
We'll work out the details.
Yeah, we don't know like what kind of hoops that we're going to make people jump through, or if any, or if it's just going to be whatever. But
the idea is to help us get to the 4,000 threshold quickly.
So. And this is cool because there is a patron that has been designing a blaster with me. We kind of dropped the project because we're both busy, but I did ping the thread on Discord recently because I really do like where we were going with it.
Right.
And this is kind of like in that vein. Like, we're getting to design a gun that we're going to end up having, which is profound.
Like movie quality, real prop.
Like heavy metal. I mean, this is going to be solid.
Yeah, not a plastic knockoff. Yeah.
Somebody sent this in. They created it and sent it in.
So what is this? This is on Netflix. It says, give us a new...
It's on change.org.
Oh, change.org. Netflix. Give us a new show which fights magic and fake news with scientific skepticism. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Specifically about the SGU.
Oh, okay. And then the person that did this is saying the SGU.
Huh.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so you could go to change.org. How are they finding this, Ian?
I'll post a link in Discord.
Ian will post a link in Discord.
It's funny.
That's really cool. Yeah, that you never know. To fight back Gwyneth Paltrow and Jade Eggs and all that stuff.
We actually are working with a TV producer who is pitching shows to Netflix, right?
Yeah.
these are always like
You
buying a
know.
lottery ticket. It's,
never
there's
know.
nothing. It's just like, hey, if you guys are still interested in doing a show, we're like, yeah, sure. So who knows what will come of that? But
So the best thing that you could do to help continue to support the SGU is just tell your friends. Just tell people.
spread the word.
Because most of our listeners came through grassroots, just people talking.
Yeah.
So continue to do that. You could also, we haven't asked people to do this in a long time. You can go on to iTunes and give us a review because we really have
Or
stopped.
wherever your aggregator is. iTunes used to be like most of our downloads. Now it's pretty much in the mix with everything else. So.
Yeah, but leaving us a review would also help.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next
Thank you.
month, and we'll see you online.
Thanks again.